Hello everyone, my name is Jocelyn, you may call me Joy, and in this video I'm going to take a look at a retrospective look at a song that is over 50 years old. I am talking about Lola by the Kinks. A little while ago, at one of the karaoke nights that my pub puts on, a regular customer there who's become a mate of mine expressed a desire to want to sing the song Lola. It's one of her favourites, by one of her favourite bands, and I encouraged her to do so. After she finished, she came up to me and said, "Oh, I hope that was okay, like I didn't offend you or anything." And I said, well, no, why would I? Like, why would I be offended by Lola? Because this person knows that I am trans. The lyrics certainly make reference to playing with gender and things being not as they necessarily seem. And I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks and I thought, well, look, I'm just going to have to look this up. Like, I don't think it's meant as an offensive kind of thing. I think it's supposed to be positive, but let's just check to see, if my hunch is correct. And I did a little bit of digging and I found out that actually, I'm gonna do the well actually here, and drum roll please. I was fine. There's nothing wrong with Lola. The song is not only fine and great, it's also remarkably progressive for its time. The lyrics of Lola are not transphobic. Yay! For a song written in 1970, that's an achievement. Not only did I find that the lyrics are largely unproblematic, they're very generally positive about the trans character in the song. And some people might say that Lola isn't trans in the same way that we understand that word, but I'm going to argue that, yeah, she is. So let's look at some relevant lines. Verse 1 and verse 2. I met her in a club down in Old Soho where you drink champagne and it tastes just like cherry cola. She walked up to me and she asked me to dance. I asked her name and in a dark brown voice, she said Lola. A dark brown voice, by the way, has nothing to do with the colour of Lola's skin. It's just the quality of her voice that was kind of deep and sexy. Well, the song starts by telling the story of a character whom I shall refer to as the narrator. In a club, a guy meets a lady, nothing outrageous thus far, very kind of sort of standard beginning to a story, really. That's how a lot of them do start. But after verse 2, the clues start coming in that Lola, in some way, is not like other girls. Hashtag not like other girls. Verse 4 goes, well, I'm not dumb, but I can't understand why she walked like a woman, but talked like a man. So she's someone who encompasses both womanly qualities and manly qualities. Verses 7 and 8 kind of confirm for me, in my mind, that the character of Lola, and, should convey to the rest of the audience that Lola is trans. Girls will be boys and boys will be girls. It's a mixed up, muddled up, shook up world, except for Lola. Well, I'm not the world's most masculine man, but I know what I am, and I'm glad I'm a man. And so is Lola. Phrasing there is really ambiguous, and I think it's deliberately done so. Is Lola glad that the narrator is a man? Or is Lola also a man? Awkward phrasing there. Even for a progressive song in 1970, it's not the best wording. And ultimately is only true if Lola is a transvestite or a cross-dresser of some description who still identifies with a male gender, but throughout the song is described as being not only very feminine, but a woman. But also, unlike most stories about trans and gender non-conforming people, you know, from that era, the rest of the verses and the choruses are generally quite positive towards not only Lola herself, but also the narrator's relationship with Lola. And yes, the relationship has a little bit of turbulence here and there, but doesn't every relationship? It does end happily, after all. Chorus 3 is, I think, most powerful for me. Well, I'd left home just a week before, and I'd never ever kissed a woman before. But Lola smiled and took me by the hand and said, "Dear boy, I'm going to make you a man." It reaffirms the narrator's naivete, which was already previously mentioned, or at least alluded to in previous verses. But, you know, that just belies his kind of ignorance towards the trans population as a whole. But despite that, there is still that happy ending, you know, and the song continues and sings out Lola, la 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 Lola, la 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 Lola. Like, the narrator's quite happy with this relationship. On its release, as you might imagine, the song Lola caused quite a bit of controversy, but not for the reason that you might think. Even with the BBC, you see, at the beginning of this video, I read the lyric as cherry cola. That's not the original version of the song. That's not even the song that most people will know. The only reason I read it that way is because I'm British. There is a special UK version of the song that was made specifically for the BBC, because the BBC, you know, has a very strict policy on advertising products. The international version, the original version, was the line, "Tastes just like Coca-Cola." However, this had to be removed and replaced with something that sounded, you know, similar. Cherry cola is generic, but still has the same amount of syllables. So Jim Davies, the writer of the song, had to change the lyric in order to satisfy BBC so that the song would actually get broadcast. The rest of the stuff just got completely hand-waved away. Oh, well, you know, they weren't really paying attention to the rest of the lyrics. So this article from American Songwriter says, today Lola is recognised as one of the first commercially successful LGBTQ+ songs. The song, released in 1970, recounts the story of a man enjoying a night out with a woman named Lola. As the song progresses, listeners learn that Lola is a man too. And again, I don't like that wording. I will explain at the end of the video why I think that Lola is trans. There is an overwhelming sense of acceptance and delight in how the evening turned out for the narrator. Lola is a song about embracing love in whatever shape or form it comes. The Kinks lead singer, Ray Davies, wrote the song, and there have been several speculations as to who inspired Lola. One of the more popular stories for Lola is that she was inspired by someone that the Kinks manager, Robert Wace, met on a wild night out. The story goes that Wace went out one night in Paris and believed he was dancing with a woman. This is until he realised that the woman had facial hair. One of our crew at the time met this beautiful blonde and he took her back to the hotel. Davies explained many years later in an interview with the New York Times. In the morning, he saw the stubble growing on her chin, so he got a surprise. But, in line with the song's overall tone, this realisation did not lead to alarm. This event was merely another reason to celebrate life, love, and sexuality. So with this in mind, many have speculated as to whether Lola was a trans woman, a drag queen, or a feminine-presenting man, and Davies did reveal that he researched drag queens for the writing of Lola. He said, when I write songs, I put myself in the part. He said, in Sunny Afternoon, I wanted to know who this broken down aristocrat was, and I became him. In Lola's journey, I did a bit of research with drag queens. He concluded, I admire anyone who can get up and be what they want to be. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't really matter how Lola identified. Lola was just out to have a good time, and she did. Well, I'm not the world's most passionate guy, but when I looked in her eyes, well, I almost fell for my Lola. Verse 3 for me is the one I find the most problematic. I, again, appreciate the fact that this song was largely positive, but it still comes from this, like, cisgender gaze of someone writing about someone rather than someone writing about themselves. Well, I'm not the world's most physical guy, but when she squeezed me tight, she nearly broke my spine. Oh, my Lola. And this kind of plays into the presumption that assigned male at birth people are automatically stronger than AFAB people, and is the root of transphobia against trans women competing in sports with other women. And it plays into that, even though I don't think that the band really thought that hard about it. But given that a woman with strength training who goes to the gym is going to be stronger than a man who doesn't, the kind of assumption there that a trans woman is necessarily stronger than a cis woman just because she might have had a male puberty or might have other sort of like features and characteristics of a male body, it's just not true. Similarly, verse 7, again, the boys will be girls part, it's not worded particularly accurately, but it's obviously done so more for lyrical poetry rather than any sort of, certainly not any condemnation meant in any way. Like, it's a song. It's not a gender studies essay. You know, there's only so much you can get into the space of 4 minutes. However, even with these, like, and I do mean nitpicky problems, like, the overall tone is wonderful. It stands for acceptance, and the message of the song stands on its platform, like, pretty great upon reflection over 50 years later in today's modern society. So what makes me assert that Lola is in fact trans? Well, first, it's not a very cis thing to do, to dress up as the gender that you are not assigned, to act like a woman in a Soho club, you know. Secondly, the social aspect of gender roles is in fact highlighted in chorus 3. The narrator almost admits to himself that he's not really a man until Lola makes him the offer that she's gonna make him a man. So his manhood is contingent on his actions and the perceptions of others around him. And in the same way, like, Lola's womanhood is a reflection of how he sees her. Like, he sees Lola as a woman. The narration consistently uses she, her pronouns for Lola. Thirdly, this is a bit of a cop-out, but I am using the word trans in the sort of general umbrella kind of sense, the whether Lola was in fact gender non-conforming or a transvestite or a drag queen or a trans woman as we might understand today, whether or not she had surgeries or medical intervention or anything like that. Like, that's not the definition of what makes someone trans. The possibility that, you know, someone like Lola who would have like physically transitioned in 1970 is rare but not impossible. But I'm defining trans here as anyone who experiences gender in some way, at some time, in some form, that is different from the one that they are assigned at birth. And my final conclusion about this song is that I personally think that it does have a connection with this particular movie, Kinky Boots. In the story of Kinky Boots, if you haven't already seen it, if you don't know, how could you not know? The character, the drag queen character, the drag name is Lola. I think it is a pretty subtle reference to the song. Maybe it was inspired by the song. The story of Kinky Boots kind of does follow a little bit of the story of the song. You know, man out at night, meets a girl and finds out that there's a little more to her than hashtag other girls. But of course their happy ending doesn't come from a relationship, it comes from a business partnership. Anyway, thank you for watching my video. I want to know what you think. Am I right? Do you disagree? And in your part of the world, is the lyric Coca-Cola or Cherry Cola? Is there anything that I've missed? Yeah. But for now, I'll see you soon. I've got lots of editing to do. Until next time, non-binary and Lola are valid, goddammit. Bye. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Oh God, I haven't done this in a while. On its release, as you might imagine, well, I'm not the world's most physical guy, but when she squeezed me, I think it is a pretty, subtle audience at